Hello, world. This is America's Supermom, and this is a special edition that I call the Corona Chronicles. During this time, we are suffering from a pandemic that is affecting everyone across the world. We are joined with the rules and regulations of being shelter in place, which means we are limited with the ability to go about our daily business, confined to our homes based on a coronavirus that has been sweeping the entire world. For some people, the effects could be mild. For others, it can be fatal. So we are coming together as a community, as a family during this time of difficulty to share what it is like in our part of the world, how we are affected, and the things that we have in common, what kind of problems that are taking place in our industries and in our relationships and finances, and coming together so that we can plan for a better tomorrow. As this epidemic or pandemic crosses the world, we are waiting for relief. We're waiting for the virus to die off and for us to go back to some state of normalcy, whatever that may be, after things kind of settle down. So, what is that going to look like once the dust settles? How are things going to be different? So, as we go through this process, we're coming together as a world to create ideas, strategies, connect in ways that we have never connected before. So, that is the purpose of the special podcast that I call the Corona Chronicles, so that we can get some insight and have empathy and compassion on one another, create new innovative ideas that can not only improve our life, but our fellow brothers and sisters across the world. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, we want to thank you guys for joining us today. I'm really excited about my next guest, Katie Mitchell. She and I connected through Facebook, and we were able to do a Zoom call, and really excited to hear her stance on a lot of things. Right now, as we go through this pandemic, and life is really turned upside down for a lot of us, and we are trying to navigate through these uncharted waters. And it's a great opportunity to have dialogues and have different perspectives, not just from our particular locations where we're at, but all over the world. So we really had a great first meeting, resonated very well with each other. And so I'm really excited for us to connect again today and to hear, a little bit about what she feels led to share as we kind of work on creating some content that really kind of helps people move forward as we approach the days that are coming in the coming months, as to what life is going to look like once things kind of gradually start moving back towards a normal, which I don't know if we'll ever see the normal that we're used to, but something where the quarantine is lifted and life is going to go through another lens. So, really glad to have Katie today. And at this time, I'm going to give her the floor so she can introduce herself and tell us a little bit about her.
Well, thank you, Lachelle. I'm so glad to be here, and I'm just so blessed that we connected, that our paths crossed.
Hmm.
And I can be thankful to social media for that. I think that
Yeah.
social media can get a bad rap, and there can definitely be negativity there, but there's so much goodness that comes from social media. And some of the
Hmm.
most amazing people I've ever met, I have met through Facebook. So I'm glad that I met you
Oh,
there.
okay.
Um, and I will tell you what inspired me to connect was seeing, that you're super mom. And,
Oh,
I look to you as really just a role model because You're amazing with what you've accomplished as a busy mom of so many children, and I
Mhm.
have one-fifth of the amount of children that you have. So I am a mom of three young boys, and
Mhm.
it's funny because growing up, I was the oldest of three girls, and so now to have three wild,
Mm.
energetic boys, being a girly girl myself, it's interesting, and God definitely has a sense of humor,
Yes.
because my boys are they're just the epitome of little boys. They're rough and tough, full of energy,
Mhm.
but they are so sweet. But they definitely keep me on my toes, and so
Yes.
yeah, my boys are young, and I'm definitely in that season of life, just keeping up with them day to day. But,
Mhm.
I also I homeschool my oldest, and then I am a work at home mother as well. So just
Mhm.
balancing everything. And so, to me, you really are super mom because you've been able to
Oh.
do it. And I know you've had your struggles, we all do. And I
Mhm.
think when you can use your challenges, and
Mhm.
we always come out better on the other side and stronger. And
Mhm.
when you can use them and use your story, and I don't know if you've heard this phrase, but let your mess become your message, and
Oh
really just
yeah.
use it to give hope to others, and
Mhm.
encourage. And I think my goal is always to add value for people, whatever that may be.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
it seems like you have the same goal with your presence on social
Oh.
media, podcasts, and really just your interactions with people.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And it all is a testament to the nice people that I meet. I really
Mhm,
feel that, when people cross my path, there's a connection because, we all, just like you said, we all have our struggles. And
mhm,
I think it's that element of being able to be transparent and
mhm,
understand that, a struggle doesn't define us,
mhm.
but we're able to connect and say, I can be real and not have to put this mask on about what
Yes.
I'm really struggling with or what I struggle with. So
Mhm.
I think when you have that desire to add value, you attract those people who feel the same way. And, between
Yes.
that connection, you help each other to get better. So I really appreciate that. I thank you for saying that.
Well, it's your authenticity, and that is that is what my goal is also to be authentic. And I think, like you said, like attracts like. So
Mhm.
when you're that way and you're looking for those types of people, I mean, they're just going to come into your life, and you never know who you're going to meet. And so
Right?
just the way we can connect with others, and
Mhm.
um, and network together. And you know um, something that really, I think, right now, you mentioned, we've both mentioned the word struggle. And
Mhm.
I think with what we're going through right now, it's so natural that there are people having maybe more struggles than usual, or even just
Mhm.
different struggles. Um,
Mhm.
and actually, I like to struggle can kind of have a negative connotation with it, and I have tried to replace the word struggle with contend,
Mm.
because I
I
feel
love
like
that.
that um, you don't want to give power to the struggle, right? Like whatever we focus on
Right.
expands. And
Mhm.
when we're constantly thinking and saying how stressed out we are, how much we're struggling with something, that that tends to just put the focus on that, gives power to that. And so,
Mm.
for example, I might say I've struggled with negative thinking in my life, but I say I contend with negative thinking. I am a
Mm.
contender. And that
I
way,
love that.
yeah, I can be real that I'm trying to work on that and make progress in that area, but I'm not focused on the
Mhm.
struggle. I'm focused on doing what I can to move forward in that.
I love that. And that is just something that's so key when it comes to mindset. It's
Mhm.
those little things that you do. I know I did a video, it probably was about a month ago, about how people fake it till they make it,
Mhm.
and it's like if you really focus on doing the actions that are required for whatever it is you're striving to do, you don't have to fake anything. But we have just
Exactly.
like embraced this term
Hmm.
because society has adopted that or accepted it.
Hmm.
And so, it's just little things that you could say, I am working to be the person that I desire
Hmm.
instead of just faking anything, but we fall into that trap. So that is such a good point. I love the now. So for you to substitute that word, what was it that kind of got you to that point? Because a lot
Hmm.
of people they think, oh, I want to do an affirmation, or
Hmm.
I know it's my mindset. I want to have a growth mindset rather than fixed. So
Hmm.
what really happened for you, or what practice do you do that kind of gives you that space to say, you know, it seems like it's a little small shift, but it could really be impactful.
Yeah. And when you think about it, yeah, it does seem so small. That's a great question. I love it. And I'm gonna
Mhm.
say my own journey led me to that. I've been on quite a journey these past 10 years of my life, just
Mhm.
starting with having children, but the reason that I had a child when I did was to give my mother the opportunity to be a grandmother. And um,
Mm.
I was very close to my mother my whole life, the part of my life that she was in it. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, she was diagnosed with cancer very early on into our marriage, and then she ended up
Mm.
passing away when she was only 57 and I was in my 20s. And
Mm.
so
So
that
sorry.
yeah, it was a very traumatic loss to go through. And maybe
Mhm.
people listening to this can relate. Maybe you haven't lost your mother, but maybe you've lost someone close to you, or maybe, even right now, we're all going through a grieving process to some extent, so to speak.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
what happened for me was I kind of went into a bit of a downward spiral. Of course, not knowing how to
Mhm.
handle. I had a 9 month old. I was a new mom, and here I lost my mother, and so I definitely had my challenges. And for me, what it looked like was, I ate my feelings, and I just ended up in a place that I didn't see myself going, and I didn't want to be physically with my physical health. And that just
Right.
put me on a journey for the past 7 or 8 years. I kind of like woke up a little bit and I thought, okay, so I don't know why my mom got cancer. I really don't. But that's not something I'm going to get the answer to this side of heaven. But what
Mm.
I do know is that, you know, there are things that we can do to do what we can to take control of our health. And so her passing really did awaken me to think, what can I do? What can I control? What can I do for myself
Mm.
to put myself in a position to be as optimally healthy as possible and hopefully be here for my children and my grandchildren. And, I know we're not promised tomorrow, but at the same time,
Mhm.
I don't want to play victim to my health. And I want to find out,
Mhm.
what can I do to feel empowered and just be the best version of myself. And for me, that started with losing weight and the physical aspect of it. And actually, over the
Mhm.
past few years, when I was able to successfully lose weight, it, other people were watching me and were inspired by that. And I thought, I'd really love to be able to help other people experience what I have, and have success too.
Mhm.
And so I've been coaching people to optimal health these past few years. But over the last maybe 2 years or so, mindset has become such an important piece of that. And so, going back to your question with struggle versus contend, and what led me to make that
Mhm.
shift was really always talking about my own struggles, right? I struggle with food addiction. I struggle with
Mm.
sugar addiction. I struggle with excess weight. I struggle with negative thinking. And, it's like struggle, 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 all this negativity. So here I
Mhm.
am saying I
Mhm.
struggle with negative thinking, and the word struggle is negative. And so
Mhm.
I actually had I was part of a training that they shared. How about upgrading your verbal software and just making what seems like a small tweak, but it actually does take a lot of intention because first you have to be aware of when am I even saying this? And you have to kind of just stop
Mhm.
yourself because sometimes, it's just like habits. It's just over time we
Right.
don't even realize what we're doing or what we're saying or why we're doing it or why we're saying it until it comes to a point where we're like, okay, something has to change. So here, my physical health changed, great. But my mindset really has to change. And especially if I want to continue making progress, because I think we're always moving
Mhm.
forward or backward. And
Mhm.
I wanted to continue to move forward. And so hearing that, just making that one switch, hey, let's try to use the word contend instead of struggle. It seems small, but it was really powerful for me to just
I love
do
that.
that one thing.
Yeah, I love that. And so many you brought up so many different points that are so good. The first one is knowing what you can and can't control.
Hmm.
So I think a lot of us, we struggle with the same, well, here I am using the word struggle. We contend with this same issue,
Hmm.
what can I control?
Hmm.
So how did you go through this, because if it's something that you've been doing kind of without thinking,
Yeah.
how did you get yourself out of that uh, thought process to even realize what things you could and couldn't control? Because a lot of it, I know in my situation, I was that victim.
Hmm.
I was just kind of stuck on this hamster wheel that was just going nowhere,
Yes.
right? So, what advice would you give somebody to kind of, as they navigate through what they can and can't control?
That can definitely be a challenge. And I think right now, what comes up for so many of us is the idea that there's just so much uncertainty right now. I feel like
Mhm.
we almost do better with a negative outcome, just having an outcome as opposed to like, we don't know what's
Mm.
going to happen. It just sometimes
Mhm.
is so difficult to not know, when is this going to be over or when are we going to go back to maybe not normal, like you said, a new normal. But,
Mhm.
when are we going to be able to see people again? When are we going to be able to do this and that? And so, um, I think the first step with what you can and can't control is first just making that decision that you do want something to change. You don't even have to know what it is, but just to know that, you know what? I don't want to
Mm.
keep going on this wheel. I want this wheel to stop. And so just
Mhm.
kind of making that decision. It starts with a decision. And then when you decide that, okay, I want to do something different. I want to get off this hamster wheel, we have to kind of just take a step back and reflect and look
Mhm.
at what got us there. You mentioned being a victim, right? And it's one thing to, you
Mhm.
know, it's one thing to have gone through experiences. I mean, sometimes we do end up in the victim role in life, but to be continuing to go back to that and almost going like through re-victimization, that's when you get on the wheel, when you just keep reliving
Mm.
that whatever it was, and it's like at some
Mhm.
point we do just need to decide, okay, I want something different. Let's get off this wheel. So it's even just stopping and taking a look and kind of reflecting. And honestly, the only thing we can control is ourselves. And,
Mhm.
even like the family dynamic in my household with the three young boys and my husband, amazing husband, but there's five of us in this house. And uh,
Mhm.
for me, I think when it all came to a head was realizing as a mother, I realized how much I do want and try to control, and I even try to control my children, and you know
Mhm.
what? At the end of the day, they are their own little people, and
Right.
as much as I want certain outcomes for what they do or, how
Mhm.
who they become, it's like I can only control myself, and I think realizing that well, and here I am saying I can only control myself. It's amazing how things around us start to change and how even other people around us start to change when we realize that being able
Mhm.
to control ourselves actually is, I mean, it's amazing and it's empowering because
Mhm.
when you do decide that you want to change yourself, the things that we can do and are capable of, it really does. It's like a ripple effect to those around us.
Mhm. So true. I mean, and I've witnessed that so many times. So this is really good. I love the thing that you said about the verbal software
Hmm.
because, when we think about a computer, we think about what things are we putting in the computer? How are we treating the computer? You're not going to just go banging on it and all these things. You have a certain system and the way you take care of it, which is so sad that we would have to kind of identify with some of that in order to begin the process of respecting ourselves and
Hmm.
thinking better about the things that we do and say to ourselves. But I also like the point you mentioned about we're either moving forward or backward. And this is so profound because a lot of people who are not moving don't recognize that they're moving backward
Hmm.
because they're not doing anything,
Exactly.
you know?
Hmm.
So I thought that was really key because, we think, oh well, I'm not doing anything. So sometimes making a not making a decision is making a decision. You're making a
Hmm.
decision to stay where you are and not move forward. So that
Hmm.
is just so profound that you would say that. Um, so, what are some things that you do? You say you have the three young boys and they require a lot. And I know myself, with as a mother of boys,
Hmm.
what are some routines and things that you have in place that kind of help keep you grounded in your positivity or, just that, just the optimistic type mindset?
Yeah. Some days are better than others with that. And there are definitely, I think the first thing is just I've learned the importance and the value of self-care and just taking that time
Mhm.
for myself, although I will tell you some days it's really not much time at all, but even just a little
Right.
bit and knowing that it's very actually selfless to take care of yourself because you're
Mhm.
able to show up better for others because if I do have a day that I don't get any self-care in, I mean, I lose my mind and unfortunately that, the mothers oftentimes we set the tone for our household and so I want to be able
Mhm.
to be the best version of myself. Now, how I go about doing that, um, I really do best when I'm able to start my day before the kids. Uh, I am not a
Mhm.
morning person, and I am contending with that, getting better. But,
Mhm.
just to give you an example, usually my children, they come out of their rooms at a certain time in the morning, and today my middle one actually he came out way before he was supposed to, and I realized just what that did in that moment. Like I was having my time, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I really do need this time to just kind of have some quiet, have some peace.
Mm.
And one of the first things I do when I get up, now I haven't been doing this for a long time, but I've recently gotten back into the habit of exercising just a few days a week. Baby steps for me. But
Mhm.
honestly, that really helps
Mhm.
to just move my body, release endorphins. Um, and
Mhm.
then also filling my mind with good things. And that might
Mm.
look different for each person, but what it looks like for me is I love podcasts. So sometimes I will listen
Mhm.
to your podcast or another
Mhm.
podcast, or YouTube videos, um, Facebook
Mhm.
lives that people do. I follow
Mhm.
inspirational speakers. Personal growth.
Mm. Mhm.
Personal growth has just completely
Mhm.
changed my life. And, some people call it self-education, personal development.
Mhm.
There's so many good books out there. Now, for me, I'm not going to say I don't have time to read, but I don't prioritize the time to read an actual book. So I love Audible.
I love that you said that. I love that you said that. Okay, because we all have the same answer. Okay, I don't have time, but you are so right about making the
Well, I
priority.
think
So, okay, go
no,
ahead.
it's fine. Everyone, we're all so busy, and I think over the years I've gotten a little bit frustrated when everyone's just like, "I'm busy, I'm busy." Yes, we're all busy, but we make time for what's important to us. We prioritize what's
Yes.
important to us with our resources, whether it's time, money, whatever it is. And so,
Mhm.
reading is important to me, but my children, they need me at a certain time in the day, and I've got to do other things as well. So what that looks like for me right now is using Audible. And I mean, it's
Mhm.
great. There's so many
Mhm.
amazing books out there, and I think if I can at least do that, I'll take the first, ideally at least 10 to 15 minutes each day, but I like to get up in the morning and get my shower and, just
Mhm.
get myself ready for the day, and that at that time, that's when I'll play those things, on my phone and basically turn my phone into a mobile university.
Mhm. I love
So
that.
so
I
that's
love
one
that.
thing, and then another thing is being very intentional about, who I'm spending time with, even in, right now, I know it's not so much physically except in our families, but, just connecting with, who am I connecting with? And,
Mhm.
we become
Mhm.
like the people that we surround ourselves with most. And so surrounding
Mhm.
myself with like-minded people or people who are going to speak life into me, people who I can speak life into, and that really makes a huge difference. I think if anything, if I can um, give an action step to someone listening to help move in a positive direction, find a person that um, can speak positively into your life and really just encourage you. I mean, I've
Mm.
had some great people that have done that for me, and I've definitely had those moments where I've played the victim because I think I don't have my mom here to do this. I can't call her up and ask her, to encourage me today. And I will say my husband, he is so amazing at doing that for me. I mean, he just
Oh.
but but if you don't have a spouse that does that, there's
Mhm.
someone in your life that you can connect with that can speak positively into you. And if you don't have that personal relationship with someone, then get it from a podcast or YouTube or Audible, but somehow
Mhm.
just fill your mind with positivity.
I love that. That is so good. That's some good stuff there because I think a lot of people, if you have a desire to have this outcome or
Mhm.
goal, you know what you're aspiring for, but a lot of people get lost in the work,
Mhm.
in the process that it takes to get
Mhm.
there, and the uh, conscious decisions that you have to make on, just like you said, the people you surround yourself
Yeah.
with, the things that you listen to. Those are choices that you make that either can bring you closer to that outcome or
Mhm.
further away. So that is so
And if
key.
I can just
Yeah.
say right now, definitely stay informed with what's going on, but at the same time, turn off the
Mhm.
news. Just, there's
Mhm.
there's so much negativity out there as well. And so, yeah, it's just being intentional. And and something else
Mhm.
just came to me. You mentioned about, how do we get off the hamster wheel? Um, I think
Mhm.
when the pain of staying where you are is greater than
Mhm.
the pain of changing, then that's when you can really just
Mhm.
decide to change. And you don't always have to know what that's going to look like. You just have to know that, okay, I really
Mhm.
don't want to stay where I am.
Mhm. Mhm. So true. And I think so many times because people look at everybody's highlight
Mhm.
reel, they just forget that there is still pain
Mhm.
with change. So they think, well, you know, they just think that it's going to be easy. And so a lot of the stamina and the actual realistic expectations are kind of thrown out the window because they always see the finished product, but then forget that there's a process to
Oh
get
my
over
goodness,
there.
yes, and that's why I think it's so important. I know it's hard to share when you're going through the process, but if you have come out on the other side, I
Mhm.
think it's really important to share how you got there and be authentic and let everyone know,
Mhm.
I have had my ups and downs, and we always do, but just being
Mhm.
real. about that because you're right, we do compare and think, okay, well,
Mhm.
it didn't look so hard for them to make that change. Like if you see my before and after weight loss picture, right? If you see me in the left, I weigh 65 pounds more than I do in the picture on the right, but you don't see the process that I
Right.
went through to get there and the days that I did have those
Mhm.
challenges and, the hard work that I did put into it over that period of time. Um, and that's why it's so
Mhm.
very important. This is what I tell the people that I work with. You have to have that vision and be really clear on why you want to make that change because there's plenty of
Mm.
days that we're gonna wake up and not feel motivated. Motivation is very
Mhm.
temporary and just like willpower. And so we need to really
Mhm.
um, have a clear picture of what it is we want and why it's important to us. So after making that decision that you do want to change, then it's really time to start thinking about what does that look like? What do I want to how do I want to be when I'm at my goal? What does that look like for me, whether it's physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, financially, any of those areas of your
Mm.
life. Just thinking about what do you want and why is it important? You have to have that burning desire because that's really what's going to pull you
Mhm.
forward, especially on those hard days.
I love that. And I think what advice would you give somebody for that? Because, everybody starts out, we hear the same thing at the
Hmm.
beginning of the year. It's the new year. I'm going to go to
Hmm.
the gym. I got this weight loss goal. And then, 6 weeks down the road, everybody's through with that,
Hmm.
because the
Hmm.
motivation is gone. So, what had to change for you to leave the motivation and move to consistency or discipline? I mean, what did that look like for you?
Well, it does help to, have that big overall goal, but I like to have mini goals. And I really like to take it
Okay.
one day at a time and think about what can I do today to be one, or I'm sorry, what can I do tomorrow to be 1% better than today? Or what can I do today to be 1% better than yesterday? And it's really just taking those baby steps, making those small changes, because in the end, like you said,
Mhm.
it's consistency and it has to be sustainable for
Mhm.
you. And I don't want to keep using
Mm.
weight as an example, but it's so easy to use as an example. But if you're setting out to lose 50 pounds and you're going from eating a bunch of junk food and not exercising at all, and you say, okay, this week I'm going to run 2 miles every day and I'm going to eat clean for all my meals, like you have to think, well, yeah, you might be able to do that on your best day, but you have to do things that you're going to be able to do even on your worst day, your hardest day. So
I
yeah,
love that.
so okay, so maybe start
Mhm.
off with I don't know, taking the stairs instead of the elevator at work or, parking your car further away in the parking lot or focusing on one meal, having a healthy family dinner together every night or
Mhm.
whatever it is, start small and then have those mini goals as you go along. And another tip for people would be have a source of accountability, whether, that's a friend
Mm.
you want to have a conversation with and share your goal
Mhm.
with and have them help encourage you. Um, Maybe a coach, just somebody that
Mhm.
some way to be accountable because I think that that's really helpful too. Human nature is to run from accountability. I tell my clients that I'm like, if you're having a week where you're
Oh
struggling,
yeah.
I want to hear from you even more so this week because human nature is to run and
Mm.
not want to reach out to me and not want to connect with me because you're probably beating yourself up. And we need people to,
Mhm.
encourage us to stop doing that and someone to celebrate our victories along the way, big and small. And so I think it's just really helpful to have, someone else in your life to be along on your journey with you.
I love that. That is so good. Well, this you've given us some great nuggets. I mean, I love the thing about the verbal software, the contend instead of struggle. I mean, I've got a lot of notes over here, so I'm excited. Now, so what is the best way for someone to get a hold of you?
Well, I've mentioned my passion for social media, so I'm definitely on Facebook. And I just use my
Mhm.
personal page, my page, Katie Mitchell.
Mhm.
And honestly, I love
Mhm.
to connect with people. So anyone can feel free
Mhm.
to friend me on there. And I'm always doing Facebook Lives.
Mhm.
So and I know you are too, Lachelle, and I
Mhm.
love it. And so,
Mhm.
yeah, my page is public, so anybody can feel free to connect with me in that way. And I just, like I said, my goal is to connect authentically with people and inspire and encourage and empower people to become the best version of themselves.
I love that. That's good. And one other question that just sparked up with the Facebook Live, because I know there's a lot of people that, they've converted from a brick and mortar to now they
Hmm.
have an online presence. And for people who are intimidated to, we say Facebook Live because we're
True.
kind of used to doing them, but for somebody who is like, oh my goodness, getting in front of a camera, what advice would you give them for that?
Have someone do it with you maybe, or just do a really
Mm,
short video. And I will say the lives are powerful because that really allows people to see who you are and get to know
mm-hmm,
you. Right now, with the inability to be belly to belly with people, the next best way to connect is
mm-hmm,
with technology. And the face, when you
mm-hmm,
can see people's face and you can hear their voice and just to be
mm-hmm.
as real as possible. That's why I like the live so much. And so if especially I have such a heart for business owners who need and want to take their business to, with an online presence. Social media and Facebook
Mm,
specifically is just such a powerful way to connect. So, if you haven't done a live before, my
mm-hmm,
advice is to just do it. And you can think about it ahead of time, or you can just go for it. I like to do it when I have something on my heart and I'm having a moment of inspiration. And I'll be honest, it can be scary to hit that live
mm-hmm,
button the first few times, and even once in a while now when I do it and I hit go live, kind of get like the butterflies. But you know what I think? What I
right.
think of when I do that? I'm thinking of who needs to hear
Mm,
this today. So it's about getting out of your own
mm-hmm,
way and thinking you're not doing this for yourself. You're
mm-hmm,
doing this because somebody needs to hear what you have to say. And even if you think you don't have anything important to say, which you do, but even if you don't think that, somebody needs to see your
mm-hmm,
face today. And so I would say just go for it.
mm-hmm,
But once again, maybe find somebody who wants to go
mm-hmm,
live with you. And I love to go live with people. So definitely anybody who wants to do that, reach out. I love to do that.
mm-hmm. That's fun. Yeah, that's some great advice because I tell you, uh, analyzing it, trying to have the
Hmm.
perfect thing to say, and you could have it all ready, and then your Facebook Live button doesn't work anyway. I
Yes.
mean, there's so many different things that could happen. It's crazy, but that was some good advice because
And
you
just
just
and
have to
just
get
say
out there and
hi
do
and
it.
just be real. And
So,
it's okay to tell people you're nervous to be live. This is my
yeah,
first time going live and I'm really nervous. Guess what? People are going to they're going to encourage you. They're going to put comments in and say, "You're doing great. You
yeah.
can do it." So, yeah, just do it.
Mhm. Yeah, so true. I love that. Well, this has just been a lot of fun, Katie. I'm excited. I've had a great conversation and got pages and notes over here, so I'm really excited. Things that I can, ponder and meditate on in order to move myself forward with a more positive mindset. So I want to thank you for sharing and letting us hear a little bit
Well,
about your
thank you,
perspective.
Lachelle. I really hope and pray that this added value and that whoever listens can get a
Mhm.
nugget here. And I want to say I appreciate you, and I'm always getting nuggets from all of your podcasts and lives, and so really appreciate you and always wanting to add value for people as well.
Oh, well, thank you very much. And I look forward to us collaborating
Yes, me
again
too. That
here in the
sounds great.
future. Hmm. All right. Well, you
Thanks,
have
you
a
too.
wonderful evening, okay? Give
Yes,
my
will
best
do,
to the
and you
family.
also.
What a great interview with Katie about mindset. So good about being able to change something as simple as struggle to contend with. I just think it was awesome. To think about, we have a choice with a lot of the things that we say, and upgrading our vocabulary is one key way that we can begin to transform our mindset to accomplish the goals that we desire. So it was a great interview. If you're interested in being a guest on the podcast, please email me at info@LachelleAtkins.com, or you could reach out to me through Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Pinterest, or my YouTube channel. And I also encourage you, share this podcast with others. Doesn't cost anything. If it's valuable information that makes you say, man, I didn't think about it like that, pass it on to a friend or somebody else. And again, I want to thank you guys for listening and see you next time.